Show site. Who can give me an example of a client asked for something? And if you don't have an example, I'm sure you do, but think about it.
Well, there's always the examples of more and more rehearsals that were not scheduled and we've already reached a 10-hour day. And so how to delicately handle that, not that we are not all willing to do it, because we are like, yep,
Mhm.
whatever you need, but there is a cost ramification. And so talk to the production manager and we just say, here's what we can do. Happy to do it. You got 10 people, it's going to be this much an hour. For every hour we do these additional rehearsals and we'll stay as long as you like, but just knowing that up front. So that's the only
Yeah.
you really have to give them a dollar figure.
Hmm.
Yeah, what
Yeah.
we
And
normally do is we set that scope up beforehand. So when we're doing, starting anything, we're like, okay, this is what your costs are going to be if you do this. If you have a rehearsal for your keynote that needs, that's 12 hands that are at the MGM, it's one cost. Or if you're in a breakout room at the convention center, it's this cost. And then we just alert them, when you're a half hour until that time frame, do you want to push go? Sign this piece of paper and it eliminates so many problems.
yeah, and a good PM can figure out the cost per hour, or does it in advance, like you said, Casey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
advances is so
Because
helpful.
we want that rehearsal as a show caller, as a deck manager, as a graphics op, as prompter. Like we all want it. Trust me. But nothing bothers me more than it happened for me this week. It happens all the time. We're like, oh, I don't need to rehearse. I know what I'm doing. And I'm like, but we don't know what you're doing, and we are the ones that make you look and sound good. And if we don't know how you're getting into the video, if you don't know how you're getting on or off the stage, or we don't know that you have a demo, like those are the things that have to be rehearsed. So rehearsal is super important, and now they've added it. And great point, Casey. If you're a good PM, hopefully you have those prices already. You know what it costs per hour when we hit that 10-hour mark, and we can easily go, yeah, it's going to cost you X amount of dollars an hour. I love that. That is a perfect example of.
And we have that same thing that happens, like say with, like a private concert, for example. So we had, like I'll just say very straight example. I had an A-list artist doing a show for me a few months ago. And then all of a sudden it was too cold in the arena for her because she's tiny. And when you fill the arena with 10,000 people, it will warm up, but in rehearsal, it's very cold. So then we have to go buy $200 electric blankets because that's all that's available in Las Vegas at this time frame, right? And then I have to send the runners and da 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 da. And then they need different types of water because that's not the water she drinks anymore because the rider's outdated, blah, 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 right? All of those problems. So what I always do is I say to my clients, look, you're dealing with an A-list artist here. You have your performance fee of what you paid them. I need a max expense account of what you're willing to spend because I need to know when to cut them off and what you're agreeing to and what you're not agreeing to. Because sometimes they'll be like, I don't care what they need, just make them happy. And sometimes they're like, I'm maxed out, I'm not doing anything else. So
Yeah,
that eliminates a lot of problems, which runs rehearsals longer if that's not settled. It makes the whole show so much more complicated. So like I once again, just having those documents prior and that data prior to even arriving on site is really helpful.
100%. That's a great example too.
I'll piggyback off that too as a this is an interesting opposite side of the coin as a project manager or event owner or event lead, logistics lead, whatever you want to call it. Um, 9 times out of 10, hopefully, usually 10 out of 10, we go into an event with an established contingency budget.
Yeah,
So, Casey, to your point, if you can tell me X, Y, Z dollars, I can make a decision on the spot.
exactly.
100%. And then even in the back of my head, I know how much I can go over budget without getting in trouble. Um, and if it's an A-lister or if it's a, CEO of Microsoft or a CEO of AWS or something, I typically will just say, do it. I'll take the heat and figure out how to get out of heat on the back end.
Yep, we do that too.
Nice. Anyone
I mean,
else?
Nancy, I feel like you guys sometimes run into this when we see some last minute things, but like I'll be on a show that's simple, or they think they can, oh, they don't need as far as the crew goes, right? And you're just oh yeah, we don't really need it in their mind, need a show collar, whatever, we've got it covered. But how often, and I guess kind of like your ideas, Casey, about having that like here's the max budget we can go to without having to run to somebody every time with the question. But so you're on site and pretty soon you're doing all this stuff. And of course we're not going to say no, but you thought you were tech manager, whatever, or you or thought we didn't need that. Well, I can't be in 5 places at once. And so like how, I guess how or when can you ask for more bodies or yeah, it's just frustrating because you want to make it happen. You want to make the show look good, but you don't have enough bodies to what they ultimately need once they're on site. I don't know.
But even from a standpoint where if we'll just keep using Casey for the sake of the conversation. Casey, if you come to me
Yep.
and say, "Hey, we have a need," and I say to you, "I have XYZ amount of contingency budget," and if you tell me, "Nope, it's not enough," hopefully we can also stand there in the moment and negotiate a little bit to make it happen. Because everything is negotiable, and again, maybe out of scope, but I may throw at you, how important is this relationship to you? If push comes to shove and you tell me no and I say no, and I will go back to you, well, how important is this relationship to you? Can we make it happen? Can we meet in the middle? Can we figure something out quickly? Speed. It's got to be speed.
And similar to that, I just came off a project in Orlando, and one of the challenges that we're seeing in general with a lot of corporate clients is contingency is being taken out of the budget as a line item where that's getting smaller. So, you could have a contingency, but they keep looking at it and like, let's reduce that. But perfect example, all of a sudden they wanted a private filming area or room to film leaders and executives, and all the spaces that we had in our contract were blocked out and used. And on site, we had to see with the venue, are there any available spots? And that would be an extra cost. And we had to have that hard conversation of like, is this important to you? Yes, it is, because these are executives and leaders that you need to film. So you need to tell us where that money's going to come from. They said, charge it. We will pull it out of a different budget and bring it into this event budget. We'll reconcile later. So what we're seeing now oftentimes is clients have bigger priorities and they're not really considering it part of event budget, but there's money elsewhere in other buckets that they could bring into to cover whatever add-on costs come later on. Like they could pull it from their marketing budget, they could pull it from the communications budget into that event line item. Seeing that very, very often nowadays.
And what do you do to cover your butts on that?
Just constantly be transparent about what the costs are. This was not included in our budget that we showed pre-event, because we do share a pre-event budget of like, here's what we're going into the event with, here's what contingency we have left, because there are always things on site. And this is an add-on cost now because this is a new priority coming to us on site or at the very last minute.
Have that. You just have it in writing,
Yeah.
of course.
Transparency is honestly the best key to just having open, honest conversations with clients. A lot of folks will try to mark up or try to like finagle costs, and there's of course markups are standard, but just explaining to a client, this is the true hard costs. Here's what it's going to be. Are we comfortable with this decision? Yes. Great. Let's get that in writing and then move on with this decision.
And I would say to
100%.
piggyback on that is based on your relationship with that client. I mean, I'm used to producing an event where I'm actually billing for it as an overall production company. So if I have a long-standing relationship with that client, I'm not having them sign a change order in the lobby to get a space to go videotape in. I have that trust in them.
Mhm.
Now, if you're in a different position, then yes, you may need to do that, I think, but I think you always have to balance out what's your relationship with that client. For example, I've had scope creep on graphics. You're going to clean up 10 slides for a presenter. Once the graphic ops open it and they're going, hey, Rob, this is like 30 slides that are just completely fucked. And it's going to take me a couple hours of overtime. So then you go to your client, and I've done it, and just say, hey, look, they're going to hit their 10-hour day with all of our rehearsals and general sessions. I'm going to let them go on their own. It's going to be a couple hours of OT. And they'll say, well, about how much? I'm like, top of my head, if it's $85 an hour times 1.5 and 2, it's a couple $100 on a multi-million-dollar job. Those clients don't give a shit. A
Yeah.
good one, at least, I would say. Those that are going to be worried about nickel and diming it, well, then that's where we have that discussion and say, we can help you with this and we want to help you with that. But if $200 is breaking your bank, then let's find somebody else maybe on your team that can help do that. But I think
Right.
they generally all see that, we're there to help support them and get it done. And I think that's important. It's not $200. It's getting
Yeah.
it taken care of for their executives. So the next morning when they go on stage to do their, probably first rehearsal at 30 minutes before doors, that everything looks good.
Yeah. And that reminds me, it's the onus is also on us as freelancers to come back to you and say, it's not 10 slides. It's 20 slides and it's going to take me a couple hours. I had a graphics op on a show and they needed her to build the happy faces video, the montage. So the photographer sent to her after the show went, the first day and tomorrow's the closer, all the photos. And he sent you know, probably thousands of photos. It took forever to download them. And then she had to make a slideshow out of them. And she worked till like 3 o'clock in the morning building the slideshow so that they had this happy faces rollout but she didn't tell anybody that this was happening. And then when the client got the bill, she was a tempo freelancer, they were pretty pissed. They didn't know. And I didn't know. Like that should have been flagged early on. Like Nance, there's even at 10 o'clock at night, she should have told me that it was happening and that she had to download all these but like so the onus is also on us, I think, as independent businesses and contractors to flag our client and say, this is going to take me till 3 in the morning and it's going to cost. And we do the same thing in pre-production. When you guys get contracts, if you have a contract from Tempo that has 150 hours of pre-production because you're producing or coordinating something, I always say in the contract, tell me when you get to the 75% mark or whatever. And then don't just say I'm there, say I'm here and looking at the calls I have on my calendar and the workload thus far, tell me and your client, I think it's actually going to be 200 hours of pre-production at the rate we're going, knowing the workload I have. Like just be transparent as soon as you can in an email so we have it written so that the client saw it and you saw it and I saw it. And then we say, stop. They're going to do it internally. They don't want you to go past 150, whatever it is. So I agree with the transparency on that. And it's on us as well as freelancers to heads up
So,
client.
so for communicating this kind of stuff on site and everything, like I'm sure it's based on, as Rob said, relationships and if you've got a long-standing relationship, but how often are you whipping out a change order that seems so impersonal, when you have a good relationship, or is it fine? I'm just going to write up an email real quick just so we have this down. I just didn't know what y'all think as far as how often you're whipping out literally a change order, like an AV in a hotel service would do. Like in an instant, they would say, "Fine, da da da, sign this before we do anything."
I do it all the time. I mean, I think I mean, especially as, if I'm doing my own thing and it's big volume and a high numbers and stuff, I have to cover my bases. So I'm just like, here, we have to have this documented for everyone's sake. And
But you
especially if you're at
do
a
you do a
hospital.
work order versus like just maybe a nicer email to
Sometimes,
lay it out, or
sometimes
does
when we're just on site and it's quick, I'm just doing an email
okay?
and confirm this, and then it's a confirmation. At least it's documented. So we have something, in writing, because, it's not like anyone's walking around with clipboards anymore or anything like that. You know what I mean? But the emails, you can just sit and, can be really, really quick and take care of it, especially if it's clients that you've worked with before. And I kind of, we do so many change orders. Like it's just so common with what I do. And so a lot of times just in the client meetings beforehand, we're having those discussions like there will be things that are going to come up. So you will be doing this and this is how we're going to work it. So it's smooth and you don't have to worry on site. And then you just, again, it's just that transparency and pre-production calls that really help.
I'll piggyback off that too a little bit, Casey. We mentioned earlier in the call that us older folks in here in the room. One of the skills that I really hang my hat on is the ability to have that difficult conversation in the moment
Yeah.
and have the courage and the emotional intelligence to know who I'm dealing with. Can I use humor? Do I
Yes.
need to be do I need to be straight? I would prefer to use humor and laugh at everything because it's all, at the end of the day, it's just an event. Or do I need to be direct? Do I need to be, very polished, very political? It all depends, and having the ability to go between those things, I think, is a very much a lost art, on a little bit of a soapbox moment.
It's not only a lost art, but the interesting thing about that is the not to bag on the younger population, but they don't have the skill set that we have when it comes to emotional intelligence and being able to read the room.
Right.
They just don't have it, and that's an unfortunate part. And no, and you only learn it from being out and about. You only learn it from being out and about and with
Yeah,
people, and that's why career longevity will be on our side until they figure out what the gap is. Because
let's
there's
hope
a
so.
huge gap on their side, a huge gap.
And speaking of humor, in the spirit of humor, Casey, I carry a clipboard so I have something to throw when there's no one watching.
Hey, I might copy you on that, Matthew.
Oh, 100%, ma'am.
I think that might be a
100%.
good idea.
I make sure no one's watching. I make sure
Oh,
no
I
one's.
always just say, we're not saving lives here. So it's all gonna work out. It's just rock and
Oh,
roll. It's all cool.
I don't mean to hog the mic this afternoon, but saving lives is a hell of a lot easier than putting on events. And I've done it for a living in the Coast Guard. It is way easier and less stressful.
Wow. Thank you for doing that.
Yes, thank you.
My pleasure, ma'am. Thank you.
All right. Another scenario is when it starts to affect more than one person when this said change. I mean, do we need to keep the camera apps on for this new extended rehearsal because someone added a skit to the awards night? Do you guys ever come across situations where you can actually look at the room and let people go home or getting into the OT part? Like there's situations like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would
Sure.
say absolutely. When you mention things like, another speaker rehearsal and you have three camera ops there just doing IMAG, I mean, they all get where their shots are going to be. So having that conversation with the client to say, hey, look, we can help, release them and not cost you anything more, or we can keep them, but, have that number ready for them. But always try to be the voice of reason and be realistic in what really needs to stay there.
And that brings up a really interesting conversation I had this week. I had a camera op who said, Nance, they're letting me go early because I'm good at my job. That's not fair.
Ooh,
Right.
What
ooh.
say you?
No, they're not in charge of the budget.
Well, who is
I
it
mean,
that's letting them go early? I
The
guess.
yeah,
TD.
do they get their minimum?
Yeah, it's their
They're
minimum.
getting their 10-hour day, and a lot of people they're used to getting overtime and staying for all these rehearsals. And the video director is good. The camera ops are great. They've done it forever. And she's like, because I'm good at my job and we're good at our jobs, we're being let go. We're not getting the overtime we used to get on this show.
Well, that's an ethical question, isn't it? You know, I want to save my clients money. I want to do the good job. I want everyone to go home and rest, and then I want to do the job for them again the next year. And trying to like assume that you're entitled to overtime is a little bit, I just don't think that's very ethical, personally.
Nancy, I guess I'm missing the point. Is there a complaint here somewhere?
They're not getting
The
overtime.
camera op was
They're not
complaining
getting their
that
overtime?
they were not getting their overtime
Yeah, I would.
that they'd gotten in the past.
Yeah, but it's like
That
So
that would.
been
that wasn't in
going,
the contract.
There's a lot of things in the past I don't get today. So
Yeah, there you go, Rob.
sorry, I'm just of that age to go.
It's like, hey, you have a job, so just be
Yeah,
happy.
thanks for your 10 and enjoy your
Yeah.
dinner with your family. I mean, I don't know what else. I mean, that's a move on thing for me. It's a non-issue. I mean,
For Gen X, it's a move on thing.
Yeah.
For a millennial, it's going to be a different vibe. Like all of us would always do more than our share. Like all of us have a different mindset. I've seen this just in operations. Our Gen X, and I think Annalise, I'm just guessing, you're probably the youngest one on this call. But our generation sees things like you do, Rob, like I do. Like our job is to save money, and it's to save the client's money, and the overtime part for the camera operator is actually kind of silly. But then the empath in me, like to see all sides, I can see the camera operator's side. Like they want the overtime, but that has to be never part of the gig. Like overtime is actually a gift, it's icing on the cake. It's not part of it shouldn't be expected.
Yeah, I mean,
And
overtime
that comes
isn't
with being a
always within
freelancer.
scope. I mean, you might know that going into the job that, okay, this is going to be a 14-hour day. And then if it doesn't turn into one, but I guess to your point, Barb, what's the flip side there? I mean, other than being apologetic and being sympathetic,
Like
which
you
I
do.
would be, but I mean,
Yeah.
what else are you going to do? Say, what, sit in your chair for 4 hours and we'll pay your OT? I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know.
I
Well,
mean,
that's
one of
always
the
awkward
things,
too, because the clients don't like to see that. But
No,
yeah,
not at
yeah, like
all.
as long as the clients aren't discounting the work, right? Like sometimes there is a client who thinks like, oh, these different people aren't, they're not needed, but like if you need them, keep them. But yeah, nobody wants to just
I think people
see
that are
people.
in this freelance life, you have to, that's part of the job, that's part of the gig.
Yeah.
You're not guaranteed anything.
Right.
Mhm. And
You're guaranteed the contract you were hired for that gig, and that's all you're guaranteed for. You're not guaranteed OT. It's just
I
not.
would
I
think
mean,
No,
the
it
rate reflects it, right? Like what they're doing.
and
I don't know.
one
I'm
of the
not
things
sure.
with an event producer, my goal is to year over year look at the same exact project. Where can we find efficiencies? And if we can tighten up rehearsal schedules, we can tighten up the wrongdoings of the previous year and take all those learnings and apply them. That's where like the saving of OT comes in. Because like, oh, we messed up the first year. Let's make a tighter rehearsal schedule. Let's come in an hour earlier. Whatever the case is, that's where I'm finding efficiencies kind of year over year to make or reduce the budget and reduce the mistakes that we made, which include overtime.
and build your relationship.
And to
Yeah.
add to that, like here in Vegas, I have a show that I'm going into now, JCK. We do it every year. And it used to be where you would have buku overtime. You'd be working like 20-hour days, because you have this all morning meetings, all afternoon rehearsals, and all afternoon event or all evening events. So it would go really long. So what they did have done is you're now, they just reduced it to like portions of the day. So instead of the whole day long, they'll do 6 or 8 hours. So it cuts out all that overtime. But like, let's say the crew, like I can speak for what I know that some of the crew did say, they were like, well, we lose all that overtime now. And it's like, well, that's part of the show design. I mean, every show is going to change every year and it should change every year. So you're not ever guaranteed, you're fortunate to get. Sometimes you want to do it structured for every day, like an eight day run. So it's that I think they address it that way, looking at their budget and yeah.
now,
You have to think that, we're lucky to have the work the next year because so many things fold and they are folding and the corporations are getting rid of their marketing budgets for the big shows and they're morphing and they're cutting stuff out completely. So, the more that we can keep our end tight and be a fit and keep those efficiencies and improve them, the more likely we are to work the following show.
Exactly.
It's got to be a big picture, long game.
Now this brings up, if we leave scope keep a little bit, but this is a really good point and a counterpoint because you're talking about efficiencies. Well, I've done the same show for 20 years producing it. I have all the templates. I have it in, like I know how it goes. I can prep that show. It used to take me, 200 hours of prep. I can probably do 150 now because I'm efficient. I shouldn't be punished for that. That's like the garage door opener man that came to my garage door and he fixed it in 5 minutes and I gave him a $300 check. And he's like, used to take me an hour, but I've done it for so long, I know how to do it. I shouldn't be paid any less. And I was like, good for you. And there's actually a proverb about there. So there's another story about that. So keep in mind to honor, value your worth and your skill set and your expertise is one thing. But then yeah, on show site when it's about overtime, then we've gotten better at it. So we don't have to go into overtime. I think there's two different scenarios there. Would you agree?
I would
Because
agree because you're still worth your expertise on planning that and whatever. Yeah, it could be a,
yeah,
a fee versus
Right.
That's
yeah,
why
no
fee-based
worries.
work sometimes is better. And then, a lot of times, we charge more on fee-based work to cover those contingencies for OT.
So
Yeah, and I think that's where the camera operator was like, I'm efficient now. I'm really good. Now I got to go home because I already know how to do my shots.
So then, fee-based work.
Hmm. I didn't really have a solution because I came from a producer mindset and then I understood the efficiency mindset of like, yeah, that's like the garage door opener that was at my house. It was so fast. He goes, Nancy, it took me years to figure out how fast I could do this.
Yeah, you're paying for those 10,000 hours, right?
That's
Yeah.
right. Exactly. They know
Yeah.
exactly what to do, when to do, and how to do it.
Yeah.
I just heard the story of the person who created, there was a logo. She was a graphic designer, and they were sitting at the table talking about the logo and what it's going to be. And she whipped it up in like no time. And they're like, well, we only want to pay you for that. She's like, but I have 35 years of experience, which allowed me to whip that up in no time. So you're going to pay me. And she ended up getting paid, the full amount. But it's the same kind of thing. Like there's a value in your quickness.
Graphics ops, especially. Yeah.
Yeah, there's all kinds of fees you can do, and yeah, I agree with that. It depends on what the service is, right?
And I think that it's exactly right, Cheryl. Like it really depends on the service. I think there's definitely roles that should be fee-based in production, and there should be others that are hourly.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that way people who do have the expertise can work efficiently, work fast, do a great job, and be compensated accordingly.
Yeah, because I can get through a PowerPoint deck really quick, right? I'm really fast, right? But if I'm doing some nice design and some innovative stuff, I might take a while to do that. And I can't necessarily overcharge, let's say, on concept origination. Like I can't overcharge all of it. Well, I spent 2 weeks to develop, like when in reality, maybe that was my creative, time. So you have to kind of package it into, okay, this is overall cost for this type of service. And I agree. I don't, yeah, because you can get stuck. You can get stuck and waste time and throw it away. And it's 10 hours later going, ooh, can't charge for that. It's the way it goes. So yeah.
I was a location manager in TV and film before I got into live events, and I had a library of front yards, backyards, staircases, whatever. And when the client one time needed this kind of setting, and I sent it to them, they couldn't believe how much it was costing them because it took me 5 minutes. And I was like, the time I spent to build that library is why you're paying the fee for what I got. Yeah.
Yeah.
But bringing it back to scope creep, when are we being flexible? When are we being taken advantage of? What do you guys think? Where's that line? When do you, okay, yes, I can. Yes, I can. And then where's that line to you?
The line is when there's no budget. I'm kidding.
No, you're not.
Cut off, I'm done. No. I think a lot of it is like back to I think Matthew's point of how important is the relationship.
Yep.
And
Well,
I
I was
think
going to say, how much do you like your client? Like, because we'll bend over for people who we feel valued and respected, and there's a mutual.
absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
And in the pre-pro, did they go cheap, but you knew this was going to happen? It's like, I keep thinking of like AV components, right? Everyone just thinks like, oh yeah, yeah. Oh, now, yeah, we need to play music. And they think like that's crazy that you need another laptop or what, like they just think like
Another
that
human
should
and
be
another button.
easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and it's like, yeah. So like, how do you work those things that if same thing, maybe it's a relationship, maybe it was truly like, hey, their executive is really pushing on this and they couldn't have expected this, but like, or should they have anticipated a little better when you tried to suggest differently? I don't know.
I think that's when the experience of a really good producer, project manager, TD, whoever's building the show, those
Like,
brains
prepared.
can be fully transparent and ask those questions before you get there. Like, are we going to
Yeah.
have walk-on music? What? What's walk-on music?
Right.
Love
Yeah,
that.
I always had
Like
that.
it
Now.
shouldn't be a
I
surprise,
get a
right?
show caller. What's that?
Yeah, my hack for years, because I don't really produce anymore except for that one show, has always been as a producer, I make a show flow out of the gate. I just take their agenda and we are months out and I will have a show flow because there's your holes. There's your,
Right.
are we doing a switcher? Are we recording this? Where's it going? Do we have walk-on music? How many chairs do we need? How many microphones do we need? Like you can build so much if you take their agenda, once you get, an idea and you just keep referring back to that show flow and the clients kind of get an idea of what it takes to pull that off. And do you need a deck manager? How many people are hanging out backstage? How important are the people backstage? Um, and that's a good way to stop scope creep from happening because, like Matthew said, you have transparency now, and make Casey's did it's transparency. We built it together. This is what we expected, and then your contingencies are there.
And that's 100% how I operate as an event producer. I'm just looking at their agenda. It's like, okay, this is your expectations. These are your goals. How can we break that apart and work backwards from that? Because essentially everything that we decide together, client and producer, I have to onboard a EV or production company to execute all that. So I want to make sure all the expectations are covered ahead of time and that I can relay it. So the AV team brings in the right team, right equipment, so on and so forth. So all those questions, Nancy, that you just mentioned are the same exact way to kind of to be able to make a smooth transition and expectations of what's needed on site.
Yeah, and that show flow is going to show you chairs, microphones.
Are we renting? Are we buying?
Yeah.
Venue?
Are we
Bodies can be
rigging?
there, same place.
Yeah.
So
I think
back,
expectations.
back to your the question about getting taken advantage of versus keeping a relationship alive. I'm just going to bring it back to the on-site, not the pre-production part of it, but the on-site situation. There, and I always try to be fair, if within reason, but like let's just say our 10-hour day ends at 5 o'clock and it's like 5:05, 5:10, when everybody's getting packed up and leaving. Day one, I may just leave it at the 5 o'clock or whatever, but if this is consistent, then you're in your next hour. Okay, which could be an OT hour. Or are we getting taken advantage of by them not expecting that extra 5 or 10 minutes every single day of on site, or because you have a relationship, you want to kind of be fair. It's only 5 minutes, it's only 10 minutes, or whatever. And where does that line get drawn?
No one's going to say anything. Is that you, Matthew? Did you raise your hand?
I was thinking, I think that goes back to how do I want to phrase it? I think it goes back to relationship. We talked about, do you like your client? Do I, for me as an event producer, and maybe you can ping in on this. If I like you, I'm more willing to let money go than if I don't.
100%.
If I can, I used the word humor previously. If we're on a humorous bit, if we have the capacity to use humor together and laugh through a couple different situations, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to be like, yeah, you know what? I like you. I'll give you the money. I'll figure it out.
But tomorrow I want my full hour of lunch and not just a half hour, because all of a sudden somebody wants to come in and rehearse during our lunchtime. And then you get taken advantage there as well.
It's a give and a take. It's I'll do for you if you do for me type situation.
Yeah.
If Mr. Camera Operator who didn't get his OT, here's $10, go buy yourself a drink, have a good night.
See, in my world, that happens all the time in graphics. We're always we're
You never
always
get lunch.
Yeah, everybody can go to lunch except for
sleep.
prompter and graphics. That's
Right. You don't get to go to the bathroom. You go to the bathroom like we just had a bio grant. No, we didn't. You did. So
Right.
yeah, it's very, very. That's a big and it is for me. It is always my relationship with the client. Yeah, absolutely. At the end, like if I know you well enough and we make it up with each other, it's all good. So.
Well, I have a question. What is lunch on site? That's a new one to me. I've never heard of
I'm like, what is this funny word, lunch?
You guys eat when you're on site? Really?
Yeah.
Good for you.
Should be a scheduled lunch
Like
break.
having
And
a
I didn't
bite.
get one last week. And I said, I'm just gonna run in my room. I got a salad. I didn't have lunch. And my producer was like, what? You didn't have lunch? Like they were so bummed that I didn't have lunch. I was like, oh yeah, because we were running the deck. So we had these private like walk the stage rehearsals with our CEO and some guests he was bringing up. And he, we're not gonna leave our CEO alone on stage, like the deck managers. We were with him and we're walking through with his guests that were gonna be on stage. And you know what? That client is the relationship client. I'll do anything for them. I don't care.
Right.
I can charge them. I walked home at 10 after every night. I don't care. Like I love them. They love me. I don't feel I was being taken advantage of. I mean, there was enough time when I was for 10 minutes, I wasn't doing anything, when I was answering my own private emails. I think it balances out. But I'll get these calls from you freelancers a lot. Let's say the best example at the same day, I had two freelancers call me and one said, Vance, they just cut my show a day short. They're letting me go home today, but I was expecting to get paid tomorrow. What do I do? And I was like, well, tell me about your client. I mean, technically they owe you for it. She's like, I don't want to charge them. I really like them. I had a great show and I get to go home and be with my family. I go, then you don't charge them. Phone rang, Nancy. The client just said, I'm done today. They're not gonna use me tomorrow, but that was on my contract for tomorrow. What do I do? And I was like, well, you're obligated. They're obligated to pay you tomorrow. How's your client? Well, they're total jerks. They weren't nice to me. I didn't feel welcomed here. Like we just blah, 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 blah. And I was like, well, then you probably bill them because you're not going to work for them again. Like it was easy. Like, but it was like within an
Right.
hour of each other. And I always say, go with your gut.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
we're freelancers, kids. Like, yeah, we have a contract and we can honor that. We could, I will always honor it. I will always fight for you. I will not decide for you, but I will tell the client what we're going to do. You know, Barb got let go a day early, but it's in our contract. We have to pay her. Or Barb got let go a day. And you know what happened? Barb got let go. It wasn't you, Barb, but Barb got let go a day early. She's not going to charge for tomorrow, even though it was on her contract. She loved working with you. And they said, are you kidding me? She's getting paid for tomorrow. It was on her contract. That's exactly what they said to her. I was like, well, there you go.
Right.
Answered your question. Yeah. So I think
Sign her again.
gotta go with your
Well,
gut.
I think that is hard because in some roles are like, yeah, if I'm deck or I'm the show caller or whatever, you're sort of like, okay, I'm managing all this. You want to protect the rest of the crew, but usually that means less self-care for yourself. But I've been brought to feel like that's just how this is. I'll figure it out if I have to. I won't starve or whatever. And so that's kind of back on me though too, to not like, am I protecting myself? But yeah, I mean, I think it's also being upfront with the client or with the whoever and just stating like, here, I've got to
Right.
protect their times or this is great, not always looking like lazy or unhelpful about it, but that just again becomes I don't know, a client thing, a personality thing.
Yeah. And
How do
what I
you,
appreciate
how
about
you're read?
our younger generations is the ability that they do have to stand up for what they believe in. I really do.
Right,
I
right.
do honor that. I do appreciate that because one of our teammates was trying to charge extra hours, an extra hourly if his call was before 7 a.m.
Hmm.
and if he worked after 10 p.m. And not OT as much as like a different rate, not like aside from OT. And I was like,
It's like twilight hours or
Like
something.
during my bedtime.
yeah, I'd never heard of that. And I was like, well, that's interesting. I mean, I do like my 3 a.m. load-ins. Yeah, they're gonna get 1 a.m. load-ins. That is a different rate. I get that. But it was like, how many times do we have calls before 6 a.m.?
Right.
6
That's
a.m.
just kind of
Mhm.
what we
This is what
do.
we do. And it's well, I
Mhm.
honor I want self-care. I want to honor my body and my
Yep.
health, and you shouldn't do that. And I was like, okay, well then I'll just let that be known. Like I will always tell the client your request. And I do like that the guy had the guts to say that. And
Mhm.
he's lost some
Well,
clients over, and I told him that you've lost some clients over this, but some people you do great work and they want you. And that's
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
it's almost
But
like his own little mini union.
and also to stand up for what they do is they have changed the way the millennials and Gen Z has changed how we work, and that
right.
working from home is because of them. There's so many things that they've done really, really well that actually we're benefiting
That's
from.
make
Like
it
we would
okay.
never
Yep.
ask because we're just like work hard, don't ask for extra, show up late, show up early, stay late, don't ask for. So that's our mindset. But thankful for them because they do stand up
Yeah.
and say, actually, do we need to do this? Can we do it a different way? And they're always questioning, can we do it a different way? Where we're with this, we'll just keep doing it the way we do it because we're hard workers. So definitely props to that generation
For
because
sure.
they have changed how we all work. And I do like
Yeah.
working from home.
And then
And
one, I do think, yeah, we have to like present it to the client. So someone else is made aware, like, hey, this is the situation. Don't just like all keep working yourself crazy to the bone without being upfront, but that doesn't mean you're saying no. It just means like, let's be reasonable, figure
Yeah,
this out.
you know,
Because it's only
Nancy,
helping people down the road. If we all keep doing things ridiculously,
yeah,
that's not going to help anybody. But
we need to give graphics a prompter a break. They need to have lunch. Like we
right,
need to,
like,
we need
and
to
they just don't know.
They,
So I'm
I
sure
sometimes
in
they
the
built
don't
meeting,
know.
into
the
my
planner side, you're just not thinking of it because that's where I was long before, and you're not aware. So helping train teach them too can't hurt anybody.
and all my production schedules when before we're even on site, I always tell my clients like this is when the crew's going to go on break. We might have a little bit of wiggle room to push that back and forth, but 4 or 5 hours, whatever the requirement is, once they start their shift, they're going to have to take either a 30-minute catered meal or an hour walk away. This is their downtime. We cannot be doing any programming, and this is their end of day. And setting that expectation too ahead of time helps a lot on site, just because they know it's coming up. That 30-minute or 1 hour walk away is coming up right now on the schedule. We can't do any rehearsals, or we'll have to go into overtime and so forth. And I always make a effort to check in on the crew. I'm always backstage. You need water? Do you guys need this? Do you need that? Like that's just my mentality of like making sure everyone's good. At even if someone did not get a chance to walk away, that at least they're being taken care of from like the producer side of things. Because I know we're coming in with so many requests and changes, and that's stressful on their end. So just keeping up those relationships and checking in on people is crucial.
Yep. All right. We're getting to the top of the hour. This went well.
It's
I
fun.
think I learned a lot, and it was great to hear different perspectives. Anybody have any closing messages before you wrap this bad boy up?
I did put it in the chat, but this has been a great conversation. Thank you all for joining and
Yeah, it was
chiming in.
good.
Thank you, Matthew. Welcome to
Thank you.
Tempo. We do it monthly. We might take July and August off. Yeah,
Fair.
July for sure. Maybe August will be back.